What manner of spirit is this? Ancestors, have mercy on us. What does he want? You must listen to me, Obinna. They know you saw them. Who? Who is coming?
I beg you, gods of my fathers, let this child be born strong. Let the tears flow, my sister. I am right here. We will face this together.
The sky turns red. What does it mean for the village?
The elders must interpret this immediately. We are in great danger.
In the heart of Igboland, beyond the dusty roads and whispering forests, there existed a kingdom untouched by time, Umuoji. A land where the soil was red like blood and the air carried the scent of ripe oranges. Tall orange trees stood like ancient watchers, their branches heavy with fruit, their leaves dancing gently with the wind, as though they understood secrets no man could hear. The huts were strong and round, built with earth and sweat. Children ran barefoot, laughter echoing through the compounds. Women pounded yam in rhythm, men gathered under the nuku tree, speaking of tradition, gods, and destiny. But above them all, standing tall like a symbol of power and authority, was the king's palace. And inside that palace lived a story that would one day destroy everything. King Eze Enyiche was not just a ruler. He was a force, a warrior in his youth, a conqueror in his prime, and now a king whose name commanded silence across neighboring lands. His voice was law, his presence unquestionable. But even kings have weaknesses, and his was his heart. Queen Adaku came into the palace like light. She was not loud, she was not proud, but everywhere she stepped, peace followed. Her beauty was soft and natural, skin like polished bronze, eyes calm like evening rivers. The people loved her. The elders respected her. Even the spirits seemed to favor her. Then came Njidike. She did not arrive quietly. Her beauty was striking, almost intimidating. Sharp eyes, perfect posture, a smile that could charm or deceive. She was everything Adaku was not. Bold, proud, ambitious, and deep inside her lived a hunger. At first, the palace knew peace. 2 queens, 1 king, balance. But time has a way of revealing truth. The day Queen Adaku went into labor, the entire kingdom held its breath. Drums were silenced, prayers were whispered, and when the cry of a child finally pierced the air, it was not just a child. It was a son, a prince, an heir. The kingdom exploded in celebration. Goats were slaughtered, palm wine flowed like rivers, and the king, for the first time in years, wept. They named the child Obinna, father's heart. But somewhere in the palace, behind closed doors, Queen Njidike sat in silence, her face expressionless, her fists clenched, her eyes burning. Days turned into months, months into years. Obinna grew strong, healthy, loved by all. And then it happened again. Queen Adaku became pregnant. The joy returned, the songs returned, the celebration returned. And this time, Njideke could not hide it. The cracks began to show. Her smiles became forced, her greetings cold, her presence heavy. Another boy, another prince, another reminder that she had nothing, that she was nothing. That night, Njideke stood before her mirror, staring at her reflection, whispering to herself, "Why her and not me?" Her voice broke. Then slowly, her tears dried and something else replaced them, something dangerous. The moon was high, but its light was weak, as if even it feared what was about to happen. Njideke wrapped herself in a dark cloth and stepped out of the palace. No guards, no servants, just silence. She walked past the orange trees, past the farmlands, past the sacred boundary, until she reached a place no one dared to go. The air changed, cold, heavy, unnatural. The trees here were twisted, lifeless, the ground dark. Even the wind refused to blow. Then, a voice. "Why have you come, queen without a crown?" Njideke froze. Slowly, a figure emerged from the shadows, old, bent, eyes glowing like dying fire. It was her, Nneka, the woman the village had cast out, the witch of the evil grove. Njideke stepped forward, fear trembling in her chest, but ambition holding her firm. "I want a child." The witch laughed, a dry, terrifying sound. "Do you?" Njideke swallowed. "Yes." The witch moved closer, too close. "And what will you give in return?" Silence. Then Njideke spoke the words that would doom them all. "Anything." The wind howled, the trees trembled, and somewhere far away, a child cried. Njideka stood still, her royal feet now trembling on forbidden soil. Before her stood Nneka, the woman the elders had erased from history, but not from fear. Long before she became the terror of Umuoji, Nneka was once a respected woman, a healer, a midwife, a woman who brought life into the world. They called her Nneka Oma, good mother. Women trusted her, men respected her, children ran to her. But power is a dangerous hunger. It began slowly. She started seeking knowledge beyond herbs, beyond tradition, beyond what the gods had permitted. She began to ask forbidden questions. How can a life be taken as easily as it is given? What lies beyond death? Can destiny be changed? The elders warned her. Some doors once opened never close, but she did not listen. One dry season, a child disappeared, then another, then another. No signs, no bodies, only silence and whispers. Until one night, a man followed a strange sound into the forest, and what he saw destroyed him. Nneka, standing naked under a dying tree, her body painted in ash and blood, chanting in a language no human should know. Before her was a child, lifeless. The man ran back to the village screaming. The elders gathered. The truth came out, and that same night, they dragged Nneka to the center of the village. She did not beg. She did not cry. She only laughed. "Today you send me away." Her voice echoed like thunder. "But one day, you will come looking for me." They banished her deep into the evil grove and warned, let no one ever seek her, no matter the desperation. And now, Years later, a queen stood before her, willing, desperate, broken. Ineka circled Njideka slowly, like a predator studying prey. You want a child? Yes, but what you truly want, the witch leaned closer, is not just a child. Njideka's silence confirmed it. You want power. Njideka's lips trembled. Then, yes. Ineka smiled. A smile that had no humanity left in it. Then listen carefully. The gods give life, but I take it and reshape it. Njideka's breathing grew heavy. What must I do? The witch raised her hand. The wind stopped. The trees shook, and somewhere in the distance, a child cried again. Njideka fell to her knees, clutching her chest. What is happening? Ineka laughed. You have begun it. There is no turning back. Back in the palace, the younger prince suddenly woke up screaming, a scream that did not sound human. Queen Adaku rushed to him, her heart racing. Calm down, my child. But the child's eyes were not normal. They flickered as if something else was looking through them. And far away, in the evil grove, Njideka screamed, feeling the connection, feeling the shift, feeling power. The witch looked down at her, smiling like death itself. You wanted a child, but what you have started will demand blood. The wind howled. The night deepened, and in that moment, Umuoji crossed into darkness. The child's eyes fluttered open, but they did not focus. They rolled slowly, unnaturally. Adaku's voice shook. Guards, call the healers, now! The palace came alive. Footsteps, voices, fear. The royal healers arrived with herbs, oils, and sacred chants. They touched the child, examined him, looked at each other, confused. This is not ordinary sickness, one of them whispered. The child's breathing became uneven. His small fingers curled tightly, as if he was fighting something no one else could see. And then he let out a cry that froze everyone in the room. It was not a child's cry. It was layered, like two voices speaking at once. Adaku staggered back in fear. What is happening to my child? No one answered, because no one understood. At that same moment, deep in the forbidden forest, Njideka collapsed to the ground, her body twisted in pain, her chest rising and falling rapidly, her eyes wide with terror. I can feel it. Nneka stood above her, calm, watching. Of course you can. Njideka screamed. It feels like something is being torn out of me. The witch crouched beside her, her voice low, cold. It is not from you, but it is because of you. Njideka's eyes filled with fear. What have you done? Nneka smiled. No, you should be asking, what have you started? Back in the palace, the child suddenly went still. Too still. Adaku froze, her breath caught in her throat. Why is he not moving? One of the healers slowly placed his hand on the child's chest. Nothing. Silence. The world stopped. Then Adaku screamed. A scream so deep, so raw, so broken that it echoed beyond the palace walls, into the village, into the forest, into the spirits themselves. My son! She grabbed the child, rocking him, crying uncontrollably. No, 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 wake up, please wake up. But the child did not move because the price had been paid. By morning, the entire kingdom knew. The drums did not beat, the women did not sing, the air itself felt heavy. A prince dead, without explanation, without warning. Men whispered in fear. This is not natural. The gods are angry. No child just dies like this. Inside the palace, King Ezianiche sat in silence. His face hardened, but his eyes were filled with pain. Queen Adaku refused to let go of her child. Even as they begged her, even as they cried with her, Obinna, still young, stood in a corner, confused, afraid, watching his mother break. Mother, why is he not waking up? Adaku could not answer because she did not understand it herself. And then Queen Njideka entered, her hair slightly scattered, her face wet with tears, her voice shaking. My sister, I heard. I came as soon as I could. She rushed forward, fell beside Adaku, and began to cry loudly. Oh no, this cannot be. This cannot be. But something was wrong, very wrong, because behind her tears, hidden deep within her eyes, was something else. Relief. Adaku looked at her, through tears, through pain, through confusion, and for a brief moment, something flickered in her spirit. A feeling, a whisper, a warning, but grief was louder and it drowned everything else. The child was buried before sunset, as tradition demanded. The zemu was soft, the cries were loud, the pain unbearable. As they lowered the slow body into the earth, the wind suddenly blew, hard, violent. The orange trees shook, their fruits falling to the ground, and somewhere, far beyond human sight, something shifted. That night, Adaku could not sleep. Her eyes were swollen, her body weak, her heart empty. Then she heard something, a soft sound, like a child crying. She sat up slowly, her breath caught. No, the sound came again, closer this time. She stood, walked toward the corner of the room, and there, for just a second, she saw it, a small figure standing in the shadows. Her child. She gasped, "My child?" But it vanished, just like that. Njideka stood before Eneka again, her body still weak, her mind shaking. "The child is dead," Eneka nodded. Njideka's voice trembled. "I felt it when it happened." Eneka stepped closer. "And now you are connected." Njideka froze. "Connected to what?" The witch smiled slowly. "To the throne." Eneka's voice dropped to a whisper. "The first blood has been taken." She leaned closer, her eyes glowing faintly in the dark. But the path to power has only just begun. Far away, in the palace, Obinna slept, unaware that he was next. The laughter disappeared. The songs faded. Even the orange trees seemed to bear fruit in silence. And inside the palace, grief turned into something else. King Ezianiche was no longer the man he used to be. Before, he was strength, he was fire, he was authority. Now, he was quiet, withdrawn, watching. The death of his son had done something to him, something deep, something irreversible. He began to question everything, the gods, the spirits, even his own household, because deep inside him, A thought had begun to grow. This was not ordinary. Days passed, but peace did not return. Servants began to whisper. Guards avoided certain corridors at night. Some claimed they saw shadows move where no one stood. A maid swore she heard a child laughing near the burial grounds. Another said she saw Queen Adako speaking alone as if answering someone unseen. Fear spread quietly, like smoke. But in the midst of fear, Queen Jidekara was changing. Her beauty remained, but her presence had darkened. Her eyes were no longer just sharp, they were cold, calculating, watching everything. And at night, she no longer slept. She walked, alone, silent, drawn again and again to the evil grove. Each visit made her stronger, but less human. Nneka no longer treated her like a visitor. Now, she spoke to her like a student. You feel it now, don't you? Njideka nodded slowly. The power. She placed her hand on her chest. I can feel things. I hear things. I see things before they happen. Nneka smiled. Good. But you are not done. Njideka's face tightened. What more is required? The witch turned away, looking into the darkness of the forest. For you to rise, another must fall. Njideka already knew, but she still asked, who? Nneka turned back slowly. The king. Njideka staggered back. The king? Her voice cracked. That is my husband. Nneka's expression did not change. And silence. You want power, the witch continued. You want the throne. You want everything Adako has. She stepped closer. Then you must be ready to lose what little humanity you have left. Njideka's breathing became heavy. Her mind raced. Her heart pounded. But then she remembered. Adaku's children, Adaku's joy, Adaku's place in the king's heart, and her face hardened. What must I do? Nneka handed her a small calabash. Inside it was a thick, dark liquid. This is not ordinary poison. It does not kill immediately. It weakens the soul, confuses the mind, and slowly disconnects the body from life. Njideka took it with shaking hands. How do I give it to him? Nneka smiled. You are his wife. That evening, the palace was quiet. King Ezeanyiche sat alone, a cup of palm wine before him, lost in thought, lost in grief. Njideka entered slowly. My king. He looked up, tired. You should not be alone at a time like this. Her voice was soft, gentle, convincing. He sighed. Nothing makes sense anymore, Njideka. She moved closer, sat beside him. Let me ease your mind. She reached for the wine, poured it carefully, and when his eyes looked away, she dropped it in. The dark liquid disappeared instantly, like it was never there. She handed him the cup. He hesitated, then drank. And in that moment, something changed. Not immediately, not visibly, but deeply. Days passed. At first, it was small. The king forgot things, simple things, names, meetings, decisions. Then he began to see things, shadows, figures, movements. Did you see that? He would ask, but no one else did. Soon, His strength began to fade. His voice weakened. His steps slowed. The once powerful king now struggled to stand for long. The elders became worried. This is not ordinary illness, but they could not find the cause because it was not physical, it was spiritual. Queen Adaku watched everything. Her grief had not left her, but now something else had joined it: suspicion. She remembered her dream, her child, the warning, the woman in red. Her eyes slowly turned towards Njideka. Njideka noticed. Of course she did. And instead of fear, she smiled, because now she was too deep, too powerful, too dangerous. One night, the storm came. Thunder roared, lightning tore the sky apart, and inside the palace, the king collapsed. Guards rushed in, servants screamed. Adaku fell beside him. "My king, stay with me!" But his eyes were fading, his breath fading, and with the last strength he had left, he looked at Obinna, his son, his heir, and whispered, "Be strong." Then silence. The king was dead. The aftermath. The storm did not stop. It raged as if the heavens themselves were angry. Umuoji had lost its king, and nothing would ever be the same. The elders gathered. The tradition was clear. The first son, Obinna, shall become king. But he was still a child, too young to rule, and that was exactly what Njideka had been waiting for. She stepped forward, calm, composed, deadly. "I will guide him. I will protect the throne. I will rule until he comes of age." No one argued, because no one knew what she had become. That evening, as the kingdom mourned, Njideka stood alone looking at the throne. Her lips slowly curled into a smile, and far away in the evil grove, Ineka whispered into the wind, "The king is gone. Now the real darkness begins." A king had fallen, and a child had been crowned. The day was heavy, not with celebration, but with fear. Tradition demanded it. The first son must take the throne. So the elders gathered. The red-capped chiefs stood in silence. The drums beat, slowly, like a heartbeat fading. Young Obinna stood before them, dressed in royal cloth, coral beads resting on his small chest. But his eyes were not those of a king. They were the eyes of a child who had seen too much, lost too much, too soon. "Do you accept the crown of your father?" an elder asked. Obinna hesitated. His gaze moved to his mother, Adaku. She forced a smile, but her eyes were filled with pain. Then slowly, he nodded. "I accept." And just like that, a child became king. But everyone knew the truth. Obinna wore the crown, but Njideka held the power. She stood behind him during the coronation, still, elegant, watching, like a shadow that could not be removed. When the ceremony ended, she stepped forward. "Until the king comes of age." Her voice was calm, controlled, commanding. "I will guide the affairs of this kingdom." No one objected, not because they agreed, but because something about her felt wrong. Days turned into weeks, and slowly,
Umuoji began to shift. The palace, once full of life, became quiet. Too quiet. Corridors that once echoed with laughter now held whispers. Servants walked faster. Guards avoided eye contact. And at night, no one stayed out because something moved in the darkness. It started with a maid, one of the palace girls, young, hardworking, always smiling. One night, she was sent to fetch water. She never returned. At first, they thought she had run away. But then, another servant disappeared. Then another. No bodies, no signs, no explanation. Just gone. The villagers began to whisper, "This is not normal. The land is angry." "No," an old man said quietly. "This is not the land. This is something else." Inside the palace, Njideka ruled with quiet control. She made decisions swiftly. Punishments became harsher. Anyone who questioned her authority was dealt with, silenced, and no one dared to ask what happened to them after, because deep down, everyone knew. They didn't want the answer. Every night, when the palace slept, Njideka left her chambers, moving silently, like a spirit, through the gates, beyond the orange trees, back to the evil grove. But this time, she was not going as a student. She was going as something else. Nneka stood waiting. "You are progressing." Njideka no longer trembled. "I can feel it. The power is growing." Nneka nodded. "But power," she said slowly, "must be fed." Njideka's eyes darkened. "I know." Those who disappeared were not lost. They were taken, offered, sacrificed. Each life strengthening the darkness, each soul binding Njideka deeper into it, until there was almost nothing human left in her. But not everyone was blind. Obinna watched. He listened. He remembered. The death of his brother, the fall of his father, and now the silence, the fear, the disappearances. One night, he turned to his mother. "Mother," Adaku looked at him gently. "Yes, my son?" Obinna hesitated, then whispered, "Something is wrong in this palace." Adaku froze because she knew he was right. That night, Adaku could not sleep. The dreams returned, her dead child, standing, watching. This time he did not cry. He pointed, not to the forest, but to the palace. And then he spoke. One word. Her. Adaku woke up screaming, her body shaking, her heart racing, because now she understood. Njideka stood outside her door, listening, smiling, because she knew the truth was getting close. And she also knew she was ready. Back in the evil grove, Nneka looked into the fire. The flames twisted unnaturally. "The boy," she whispered, "he is beginning to see." Njideka's face hardened. Then he will become a problem. Nneka smiled slowly. Not yet, but soon. Her voice dropped into darkness. Very soon. Far away, Obinna stood by the window, looking into the night, and for the first time, he felt it. Not fear, but something deeper. Destiny.
The palace slept, but Queen Adaku did not. Her body lay still, but her spirit was restless. The dream came again, stronger this time, clearer. She found herself standing in a place she knew too well, the burial ground, the same place they laid her child to rest. The air was cold, the sky was dark, the orange trees stood still, as if time itself had stopped. Then she heard it, a soft cry, not loud, not painful, but calling. Mother. Adaku's breath caught. She turned slowly, and there, standing near the small mound of earth, was her son. He looked the same, small, fragile, innocent, but something was different. His eyes held knowledge no child should have. Adaku fell to her knees, tears rushing down her face. My son, my child, is it truly you? The child did not smile. He only looked at her. Then, slowly, he raised his hand and pointed. Mother. His voice echoed strangely, like it was coming from far away, and yet right beside her. She is the darkness. Adaku's heart pounded. Who is? The child's finger did not move. It pointed toward the palace. Then he spoke again. She took me. Adaku's body trembled. What are you saying? The child's face slowly changed, not into something monstrous, but something sad, knowing she will take more. Then, suddenly, the wind rose violently, the ground began to shake, and the child's voice echoed one last time. Save him! Adaku screamed, Who? But the child vanished, and she woke up. Adaku sat upright, gasping for air, sweat covering her body. Her heart pounded like a drum. This was no ordinary dream. This was a message, and deep inside her spirit, she knew the truth. Njideka. At that same moment, in another chamber, Obinna woke up suddenly, like something had touched him. He stood up slowly. Who is there? Silence. Then again, run. The voice sounded familiar, too familiar. Brother. But there was no answer. From that night, everything changed. Adaku was no longer just grieving. She was searching, watching, listening. She began to visit the elders secretly. What do you know about spirits that do not rest? The elders exchanged glances. One of them spoke carefully. When a soul returns, it means something was done, something that must be undone. Adaku's voice shook. What if the one who did it is inside the palace? Silence fell, because they all knew what that meant. Njideka stood in her chamber, still. Then suddenly, she turned, like she heard something or felt something. Her eyes narrowed. The air has changed. That night, she rushed to the evil grove. Ineka was already waiting. You feel it, don't you? Njideka nodded. Something is wrong. The queen, she is beginning to see. Ineka's expression darkened. And the child? Njideka hesitated. The boy, Obinna, he is changing. The witch turned toward the fire. That is not good. Ineka's voice became serious. The dead child has crossed over. Njideka froze. What do you mean? It is no longer silent.
It is guiding them. Njideka's breathing became uneven. Then we must stop it. Ineka held her head slowly. You cannot stop a spirit, but her eyes glowed faintly. You can silence the living. Njideka understood immediately. Obina. Back in the palace, Obina stood alone, looking at his reflection. But something felt different. He was no longer just afraid, he was aware. And deep inside him, something was waking up. Not power like Njideka's, but something older, something chosen. That night, as the wind blew through the orange trees, two forces began to rise. The darkness and something meant to fight it. In the evil grove, Njideka spoke with deadly calm. If the boy must die, then it will be done. And far away, in the shadows of the palace, a small voice whispered again, "Save him."
There comes a time when silence becomes a sin, and truth must stand in the open, even if it burns everything. The sun rose slowly over the kingdom, but there was no peace in its light. The air was tense, heavy, because word had spread. The elders had been summoned, the chiefs had been called, the people were gathering. Something was about to happen, something the kingdom would never forget. Queen Adaku stepped into the village square, dressed in pure white, not as a queen of comfort, but as a woman ready for war. Her face was calm, but her eyes burned with truth. Behind her stood Omego, still shaken, still afraid, but ready. And beside her, young King Obina, watching, learning, becoming. Then she came, Queen Njideka, dressed in deep red, coral beads shining, her presence commanding. She walked slowly into the square. No fear, no shame, only power. The crowd parted for her, because even without knowing everything, they felt it. Something was wrong. The oldest elder stepped forward, his voice deep, heavy with authority. Why have we been called? Adaku stepped forward, her voice steady. Because evil sits on the throne of Umuoji. Gasps filled the air. All eyes turned towards Njideka. But she did not react. She only smiled. Adaku raised her hand, pointing directly at her. This woman is responsible for the death of my child. Murmurs spread. And the fall of the king. The crowd erupted. That is a lie. Impossible. A queen. Njideka finally spoke, her voice calm, almost amused. You accuse me. With what proof? Adaku turned. Omego. The guard stepped forward, his legs weak, but his voice determined. I followed her. Silence fell instantly. I saw the evil grove. Fear spread like fire. I saw the witch. Gasps. And I saw the rituals. The crowd stepped back. The sacrifices. Now, panic. Njideka laughed. A slow, cold, dangerous laugh. So, this is your proof? She stepped forward. A frightened man telling stories of the dark. She turned to the elders. Will you condemn a queen based on fear? The elders hesitated, because in Umuoji, truth required more than words. It required
the spirits. The oldest elder raised his staff. If there is truth, let the ancestors speak. The air changed instantly. The wind rose. The sky darkened slightly. The ground felt alive. A sacred circle was drawn. Chant began. Ancient, powerful, calling on forces older than the kingdom itself. The fire in the center rose suddenly, not like normal fire, but like something breathing, watching. Then, a voice, not from any human, from everywhere. The blood was taken. The crowd froze. The child did not die by chance. Adaku fell to her knees, tears streaming. It is true. The voice continued. The darkness wears a crown. All eyes turned slowly towards Njideka. For the first time, Njideka's expression changed. Not fear, but anger. Her eyes darkened. Her body stiffened. So, she whispered, "You choose to see." The wind howled violently. The fire exploded upward. And then, she laughed. Not like a human, but like something else. "I did it," her voice echoed unnaturally. "I took the child." Gasps, screams. "I broke the king." The crowd began to panic. "And I will take more." Her body seemed to pulse with energy, her eyes glowing fondly, because now there was no more hiding. The sky darkened completely. The wind roared. The sacred fire turned wild. And then the ground cracked. A shadow moved beneath it. Something was coming. From the center of the circle, a small figure began to rise. Slowly, terrifyingly. The spirit of the dead child. The crowd screamed. Adaku cried out, "My son!" The child pointed directly at Njideka. The elder raised his voice. "Njideka, you are guilty before man and before the spirits. You are banished." The crowd echoed it. "Banished! Banished! Banished!" Njideka stood still. Then slowly, she smiled. "You think this ends here?" Her voice dropped, cold, deadly. "This kingdom is already cursed." She turned to Obina and pointed. You will never know peace." The wind screamed. "The throne you sit on will drink blood." The ground split open behind her. Darkness swallowed the light, and as she was dragged towards it, she laughed, a laugh that echoed across the kingdom. And then she was gone. Silence fell, heavy, unnatural. The stone slowly faded, but nothing felt the same, because even though Njideka was gone, her words remained, her curse remained. Obina stood in the center of it all, breathing heavily, watching everything, and deep inside him, something shifted, because this was not the end. It was only the beginning.
They thought it was over. They thought banishing Njideka would end it. But evil does not end. It waits, it spreads, and when it is fed enough, it returns stronger. For a few days, the kingdom was calm. Too calm. The winds were still. The birds did not sing. Even the orange trees seemed to bow in warning. People spoke in whispers. Is it truly over? No, an old woman said quietly. Evil never leaves empty. It began at night. A man woke up screaming. He claimed something was sitting on his chest, watching him, breathing into his face. But when others came, there was nothing there. Then another woman said she saw shadows crawling on her walls, moving, watching, waiting. Soon, it spread. Children cried in their sleep. Men refused to walk alone. Women lit fires that refused to stay lit because something had entered Umuoji. Deep inside the evil grove, the ground trembled. The same crack that swallowed Njideka began to open again. Slowly, dark smoke rose from it, and then a hand emerged. Not weak, not human, something stronger. Njideka moves, but she was no longer the same. Her eyes glowed fully now. Her skin carried strange markings. Her presence was terrifying. And beside her, stepping out of the shadows, was Nneka, smiling. You see now, death is not the end. Njideka looked at her hands, confused. It feels different. Nneka nodded. You are no longer bound by flesh. You are part of the darkness now. Back in the kingdom, the ground near the palace began to crack. Crops started dying. Water turned bitter. Animals became restless. And then, the first death. A young boy, found lifeless in the morning. No wounds, no struggle, just empty, like something had taken his soul. Panic spread like wildfire. This is her curse. She warned us. We are not safe. The elders gathered again. This is beyond man. This is spiritual war. Obina stood before them, no longer just a child. His eyes had changed, focused, sharp, determined. What must be done? The elders looked at him, for the first time, not as a boy, but as a king. One elder stepped forward. There is only one way to fight darkness. You must awaken what protects the land. Obina frowned. What is that? The elder's voice dropped. The spirit of Umuoji. Silence, because that name was not spoken lightly. Long before kings, before queens, before men built huts and called it home, there was a force, a guardian, bound to the land, protecting it from evil. But it had been silent for generations. Before they could act, it happened again. This time, inside the palace. A guard lifted into the air, thrown across the room by nothing, invisible, unseen, unstoppable. The walls cracked, the lamps exploded, and a voice echoed, "You cannot stop what you have awakened." Obina stood frozen, but he did not run. Instead, he stepped forward. "Show yourself." Silence. Then, a shadow formed, slowly, taking shape in Njideka. But not human, something else, something darker. "You see now," she said softly. Obina clenched his fists. "You killed my brother. You destroyed my father." Njideka smiled. "And now, I will take you." She lunged forward, but something stopped her. A force, a light, bursting from Obina. The room shook. Njideka staggered back. "What is this?" Obina looked at his hands, confused, but the elder's voice echoed in his mind. "The spirit of the land, it has chosen you." Njideka stepped back slowly, her eyes filled with something new, not fear, but caution.
This is not over. She vanished into darkness, and the room fell silent. Obina stood there, breathing heavily, realizing the truth. This was no longer just a curse. This was war.
The night sky was black, but the air crackled with energy. Every leaf on every orange tree trembled. Even the earth seemed alive, waiting. King Obina stood at the palace gates, no longer a boy, no longer uncertain. His chest held coral beads gifted by the elders. His hands trembled at first, but his eyes burned with purpose. "The kingdom will not fall again," he whispered. And at that moment, the spirit of Umuoji awoke fully within him. A golden aura surrounded him. The air hummed, and the whispers of his dead brother, his father, and all the lost souls joined together in his mind. From the shadows of the evil grove, Njideka appeared, her body more monstrous than ever. Nneka floated behind her, smiling like death itself. "Finally," Njideka hissed, "you are ready. The throne will be mine." Her voice carried through the night like a curse itself. Lightning struck the ground as Obina stepped forward. The spirit of the land surged through him. Golden fire leapt from his hands. Njideka recoiled, but Nneka laughed. "Power alone does not defeat the darkness," she whispered. The first clash shook the earth. Obina struck, light against shadow. Njideka retaliated with darkness, twisting the wind into violent storms. Inside the palace, windows shattered. Orange trees outside bent violently as Njideka's shadow spread. Villagers watched from afar, terrified, as the sky turned red with the battle's fury. Lightning tore through the clouds, illuminating the epic duel. Njideka's attacks were ruthless. A single wave of her hand brought the palace guards to their knees, screaming in fear. She summoned shadows of the lost children, twisting them into terrifying forms, forcing Obina to dodge every step. Then a voice echoed, "Brother, fight her!" Obina turned. The spirit of his dead younger brother appeared beside him, glowing softly. "I will help," it whispered, and suddenly the shadows Njideka controlled faltered. Obina raised his hands high. Energy surged. The golden light expanded like a storm. Njideka screamed as her aura burned her shadows away. Nneka attempted to intervene, but the spirit of the land pushed her back. Obina's power was no longer just inherited, it was awakened. Njideka lunged, but Obina stepped forward, calm and unshakable. He whispered, "This ends now." And in a flash, light and shadow collided. Njideka screamed. Nneka's laughter turned into a shriek. The ground cracked. Fire and darkness tangled in the sky. With a final strike, Obina channeled all the land spirit through his body. Njideka screamed as her body was engulfed in golden flames. Her shadowy form dissolved into the night air, leaving only silence behind. Nneka, enraged, tried to flee into the forest, but the ground swallowed her, dragging her into the depths of the evil grove forever. The storm passed. The skies cleared. Orange trees swayed gently in the breeze, alive again. Obina stood tall, exhausted but unbroken.
Adaku rushed to him, tears streaming down her face. "My son, my king," she said, embracing him. Obina looked out over Umuoji. "The curse is broken," he whispered, "but we must never forget." Word of the battle spread. The people of Umuoji rebuilt. Obina ruled with wisdom and courage. The palace never forgot the darkness that once threatened it, but the light of the land and its king protected them. The spirits of the fallen watched over the kingdom in peace, and deep in the forest, the evil grove remained, silent, waiting, because evil never truly dies, it only sleeps. Obina looked at the setting sun. He knew his fight was not just for a crown. It was for the souls of his people, for the land, and for the legacy of Umuoji. And with that, the kingdom breathed again, alive, free, for now.